Hello. On behalf of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, NAESP, the American Federation of School Administrators, AFSA, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, NASSP, I want to welcome you to this Principals Policy Briefing. I'm Earl Franks, Executive Director of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, and it's my privilege to kick off this event highlighting the essential work of building leaders every day. The successes and rewards of serving as a school principal are matched only by the challenges they face. Already during the school year, principals are once again confronting a complex set of new and existing issues. Foremost among these are supporting the mental well-being of students and staff, ensuring everyone's physical safety, managing student cell phone use in school, and addressing the rapidly evolving implications of artificial intelligence in education. Our panelists will share their firsthand experiences and the valuable lessons they have learned while leading their schools through these challenges. The situations you will hear about today are not isolated examples. They are happening in schools across the country right now. For the principals joining us, I hope you will find reassurance that you're not alone and you discover approaches you can adapt to use in your own schools. For the congressional staff in attendance, you will hear how federal policies better support principals in this critical work. Our school leaders need more than encouragement or appreciation. They need tangible resources, clear guidance, and policies designed with the realities of school leadership to be top of mind. The conversation today isn't just about the challenges, it's about solutions. As we continue to celebrate National Principals Month during October, we commend and recognize the leadership of school principals while working to ensure that every school leader has what they need to help every student succeed. It is now my pleasure to introduce the moderator of our expert principals panel, Mark Canisario. Mark currently serves as president of the American Federation of School Administrators, AFL-CIO. Prior to assuming this position, he led the Council of School Supervisors and Administrators, AFSA Local 1. A proud Staten Island native, Mark began his career as a physical education teacher and rose through the ranks to become a principal and nationally recognized voice in education. He taught and served as an assistant principal, then led an intermediate school as principal, earning recognition as a model middle school under his leadership. Welcome, Mark, and thanks for your leadership. We appreciate your assistance in facilitating this important discussion.
Thank you very much, Earl. And before I begin, I would like to turn your attention to a video from Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, who wanted to take a moment to honor our principals during National Principals Month.
Hi, this is Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis representing Staten Island and Brooklyn, New York. I want to extend my greetings to all of you gathered there today, especially my good friend Mark Canisario. We appreciate his leadership. And I want to thank all the principals who are in the room and the administrators. You play such a tremendous role in the development of our youth. And I could say to this day, I still remember my principals and the impact that they had on my life. My very first principal I remember at PS 53 was Mr. Anarumo. I still see him from time to time around the district. And Miss Gabara, who was the principal at New Dorp High School when I was there. Sadly, we lost her recently, but I can't express how influential she was in my life. She was a true mentor and someone I really looked up to and admired and had a profound impact on me. So I want to say thank you to the principals and all the educators for the work that you do each and every day. Young people across our country rely on you, they look up to you, they admire you, and believe me, they never really forget you, no matter how many years and how many decades go by. So thank you very much, and happy National Principals Month.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I am honored to be here with this high-quality panel of educators. who not only serve as principals in their own building, but also occupy leadership positions in their districts, states, and national organizations. This panel brings a wide range of career experience and geographic diversity, hailing from suburban Maryland, urban Ohio, and rural Wyoming. Let me introduce them from west to east. Chase Christensen serves as superintendent and principal of Sheridan County School District Number 3 in northern Wyoming, which is the smallest district in the state by population, but spans 60 miles long and 50 miles wide. He was recognized as the 2025 Wyoming Principal of the Year. He is also NASSP's Wyoming State Coordinator. Next is April Knight. She is the principal of Avondale Elementary School in Columbus, Ohio. She has held key leadership positions such as president and vice president of the Columbus Administrators Association and the Columbus Elementary Administrators Association. In addition to serving on the board of directors for the Ohio State Elementary School Administrators for 5 years. She has served on the Superintendent's Advisory Committee for the past 4 years, and she is currently the president of NAESP. Welcome, April. And finally, James Ulrich. He has been the principal of Argyle Middle School, a whole school tech magnet in Montgomery County, Maryland, for 11 years. He is the middle school chair of the Montgomery Association of Administrators and Principals, which is an AFSA local. He also serves on the board of directors for both the National Association of Secondary School Principals and the Maryland Association of Secondary School Principals. He was named Maryland Principal of the Year for 2023 and was a Washington Post Principal of the Year finalist, among other recognitions. I would like each panelist to take a moment to describe their school district, their main focus, and give a little bit of background about themselves and any type of funding streams that they may receive from the federal government. We will start with Chase.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the introduction. My school and district, as you mentioned, is the smallest by number of students in the state of Wyoming. We serve 80 of the most wonderful students in the country, and we have a tremendous geographic region to cover. But I want to talk a little bit about the main focuses of our school, specifically academics. We have been working hard over the course of the past couple of years to weave in career-centered focus and make sure that all of our students have access to the breadth of the opportunities that our economy provides. I've begun this year a program called Roads to Success, where we bring speakers every week to the district to provide students that opportunity to meet and see the breadth of the economy in our area. I think this is important for each of the topics we're going to discuss today. In terms of keeping and making sure that students have a reason and they know that they should be in school. So in terms of the mental well-being, as all the way through to AI that we talk about today, I think that's important. The federal funding streams that we receive, the biggest one is Title I. That does allow us to employ a staff member that focuses on data as well as intervention for our students, and has helped us over the course of the past 3 years move to a point where all of our students are receiving what they need in Tier 1 instruction, and we have very few in Tier 3 interventions. We also receive IDEA funding, which allows us to provide the only mental health support that we do within school to students that are being served by special education. Title II funds right now are providing great professional development for my teachers. We focus that in the area of mathematics, and it's providing K-12 professional development for my teachers. And Title IV funds are important. We have decided to spend those to provide our students additional education in the form of self-defense. We bring a jiu-jitsu gym from a nearby town over to make sure that our students are are receiving high quality physical education, but also that they're able to build confidence and ready for the challenges that life throws at them, whether they be in the workforce or otherwise in that self-defense type arena. We receive Perkins funding for our CTE programs, which does help us to provide the equipment to make sure that our students are receiving the best that industry has to offer, and they're prepared to move into the workforce when they graduate. And due to our size, we also receive a little bit of Title V funding that helps us wherever we feel the need for spending that year. Again, those federal funding streams absolutely help us to balance the education for our students and make sure that our students are receiving a high quality education regardless of their background. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chase. April, would you mind doing the same, introducing yourself and a little bit of background?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm April Knight. I am in Columbus, Ohio, and Columbus City Schools is the largest school district in the state. We have 118 schools in our district, and all of them, with the exception of 2, are Title I buildings. So there's a significant amount of need in Columbus, and I'm very fortunate to be starting my 35th year in Columbus, 22nd year as an administrator, and it's the best job ever. As far as my particular building, I have pre-K through 5th grade, and I have 4 units of students that have multiple disabilities. Of my 240 students, 45 of them have significant disabilities and have significant needs that only my building is able to provide. We have an incredible staff that's there to serve the students, and we work really hard on things like social emotional well-being. Because of the location of my building, about a mile from downtown Columbus, there is a great deal of generational poverty that we are dealing with. And I have multi-generations of families that have been attending at Avondale, a school that was built originally 1893, and fortunately, thanks to some funding, was renovated in 2008. But we still are in a situation where there's such great need that we are in high demand of Title I funding to ensure that we have the interventions that our students are in need of. We work with our district offices with Title II funding. We are a district that has utilized restorative practices, and with that and the trauma-informed practices, there's a great deal of training that's required by staff. Title II is critical to that. And additionally, IDEA is something that our district counts greatly on due to our significant number of students that are needing those support services. A lot of that is also related services like speech and language therapy. It might be occupational therapy, physical therapy, all of those services that can utilize Medicaid funds, but we're in need of getting as much as we can to help our babes move along and get up into college and the workforce. So that's Columbus, Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And James, we're going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me here today. James Orridge, principal at Argyle Magnet Middle School, and we are what you call a whole school magnet. We are located in Silver Spring, Maryland. Our district, which is Montgomery County, is the largest school district in Maryland. My buildings serve about 850 outstanding students. Within our building, we are what you call, again, a whole school tech magnet. That means any students who walk through our doors participate in our magnet. Whether or not that are students who are free and reduced meals, which for us is about 65%, special ed students, Whenever students that walk through our doors, they participate in our magnet, and students actually choose. Because we're a tech magnet, I know we're going to spend some time later today talking a little bit about AI and cell phones. A lot to share on that. In terms of funds, we are what you call a community school, which is really a designation that is specific to our state, but we know that there are also other community schools along, in the nation. I believe several of those funds also come from the federal government. We use Title II funds within our district in terms of recruitment and developing of teachers. We, as a school district, and real specifically at Argyle, really focus on restorative practices, restorative approaches, and those funds are used there as well to develop teachers, continue to help them in terms of focus, classroom management, and things of that nature. Overall, our school is a school that some may say is of need, but what we've been able to do quite a bit with what's been provided to us from our community, from the state, and of course from the federal government, which we want to continue to see those funds coming through. But overall, just excited to be here to continue this conversation.
Took me a second to unmute there. Thank you very much. We're going to continue this discussion, and some of you have already touched on student health, and we're going to continue the discussion on both physical and mental health. But just a few things first. One of the primary duties of school principals is to maintain a safe and healthy environment in their schools to allow teaching and learning to flourish. But in many middle schools and high schools, this can be challenging. In the most recent National Center for Education Statistics report, which uses data from the 2019-2020 school year, 74% of high schools and 61% of middle schools reported serious infractions which led to disciplinary intervention. Students were disciplined for a variety of actions, including physical violence, distribution, use, and possession of alcohol and drugs, or use and possession of firearms. Physical safety for school leaders is also an abiding concern. A 2022 NASSP survey found that 70% of school leaders had been personally threatened or attacked. An NCES study, which captured data from 2009 to 2022, found that schools had adopted a wide array of safety and security measures to protect students and staff, with security cameras exploding in popularity. By 2021-22, 60% of schools reported one or more security staff present, and at least once a week. Beyond these measures, many school districts have adopted restorative justice practices in an effort to reduce behaviors which led to disciplinary referrals and school arrests. April, can you talk to us a little bit about how Columbus handles safety and security, what has worked well and what has not, and where the federal government has or could have been helpful?
Yes, thank you. Over the past few years, CCS has strengthened our partnerships between our schools, our district's Office of Safety and Security, and the Columbus Division of Police. The collaboration has helped us streamline emergency response. It's improved communication, built trust, and our safety and security leaders meet monthly with CPD to discuss any concerns or supports. All of our schools in the district have what's called a Raptor system, which is a means of guests to the building signing in through a computer system. It runs tracking of their name. If there's any similar name that comes up that might have had a possible arrest or concern, that's flagged. It's an extra layer of support, especially when you've got a secretary who's by themselves. People are coming into the building. It's very difficult to make sure that we are ensuring all safety for all of our students and staff. We also use in the high schools, it's called Evolve, and it's a scanning system. And it's used in the high schools for entry of students and guests. It's also used at all of our sporting events for high school as well. Our buildings are all come with door alarms at secured entry points. We have updated camera systems and a great deal of staff training. CCS also is heavily invested in social emotional learning, mental health supports, and the restorative practices. Oftentimes, those things prevent crises from occurring to start with. We continue to still have some challenges balancing this constantly evolving nature of safety threats and youth mental health. We're dealing with very few resources, competing needs, and it would be incredibly helpful to continue to fund our school-based mental health positions, grant opportunities for infrastructure upgrades, as well as supporting this cross-agency collaboration, connecting schools, public safety, and the community organizations. So CCS is working to ensure that our students, staff, and families are all safe, but there's never that guarantee. And that is an area in which we will always continue to work to get as close to that as we possibly can.
Thank you very much, April. It sounds as if there are some promising practices in Columbus and that, the continued efforts will certainly yield even better results, but thank you for that. James, I know that Montgomery County has moved forward with implementing restorative justice, not just to improve student deportment and school climate, but also to build community. Can you tell us how your system operates, what successes you've had, and how federal policy or funding does or should support the effort?
Absolutely. So I'll speak a little bit about Argyle, and then I'll talk a little bit broader about our district. At Argyle, we have been a restorative school. So for about 8 years, when I first arrived, saw upwards of about 1,000 referrals from everything from tardiness to much serious more infractions, fighting and things of that nature. And what we realized very quickly was there were some challenges around what was happening with our staff and our students. So we actually had a groundswell coming from our teachers asking for more restorative practices. At the time, it was really a young and kind of a new idea. And then as a result of that, we implemented advisories where we started to do community circles every day, where we were there to really build community. And what we saw just almost immediately in that next year was a decrease in our referrals from 1,000 to about 500, and then kind of leveled out to, after the full year, about 150 referrals in a given year. So we really saw a major decrease. What we've also noticed was that there was a lot of confusion around what people thought restorative justice and restorative practices, what we call in our district restorative approaches, actually is. And they thought that was something that you would do in place of suspension. And sometimes, we're looking at a particular situation and we realize we actually need to just have these restorative practices, which then can also lead to suspensions. But what we've done in Montgomery County is that we've actually established 5 levels of behavior interventions when dealing with issues. Everything from classroom teacher-led all the way to the superintendent response, which in those cases will be an expulsion. And at every level, there are restorative practices at every one of those levels. And again, what we're realizing is that it is not just about this or that, but what we see, it is the discipline, maybe suspension, and the restorative practices, which really is about how do we bring kids back into the school community. So what we found is that Title II dollars is what we would use to support. And we continue to do that now. But we realized that the Title II dollars was helping us to be able to support teachers and developing their capacity and building their capacity to do everything from manage classrooms, but also our security team, what's happening in the hallway. All those spaces are really, really important. So what we do with our staff makes the biggest difference in what happens overall for our students.
Thank you, James. James, from a practical perspective, how were you able to find the time in the school day to program some time for every day to have these restorative practices?
Yeah. So very specifically with our advisory, we actually looked at our schedule and took about 2 minutes off of each period or so. So we started there. And then for probably my first 2 or 3 years of implementing restorative practices, we actually made that part of our, if you will, kind of our school improvement plan. Because that was something we need to really get a handle on. We even looked at instructional practices, Socratic seminars, that teachers would do in the classroom that would really reinforce the idea of circles and community building. So it wasn't just something that we didn't just lean in that in terms of the social emotional space, we leaned that as well as in the instructional space. Because we've been doing it for quite some time in our building, at this point, it's just, if you will, kind of second nature. Our staff who's been there for quite some time knows what to do. When there's new staff, we spend time in the beginning of the year, and we actually have what we call a new kind of staff seminar where we meet with them once a month, and we actually spend time in that space going over some of these practices that has been embedded, if you will, into our school culture.
Very impressive. Thank you. Okay, many studies have shown that our nation's students are grappling with a severe mental health crisis. This crisis existed before COVID and was only exacerbated by that pandemic. A Centers for Disease Control report found that in 2023, 40% of students had persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. 20% of students seriously considered attempting suicide, and sadly, 9% of students have attempted suicide. Mental health issues are not confined to students, though. Our national principals are also struggling. NASSP's 2022 survey found that 73% of school leaders reported they needed help with their mental and emotional health. Congress and the administration have recognized this issue and devoted significant funding to help schools. But by and large, that money was focused on student mental health as opposed to staff mental health. Chase, as both a rural principal and superintendent, you face significant challenges finding mental help locally. Can you share with us some solutions that you have utilized, and if and how federal support does or could help you improve mental health in your district?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I did speak at my outset that we had one mental health provider that makes it to our school, and that person is funded through IDEA funds from the federal government. They travel 70 miles one way to get to my school and district, and that really is the only mental health available to my students or my staff during a given day. Because of that, it's very imperative that we lean on programs and providers that we're able to assist through virtual means. And my district has leaned into that for our staff, specifically by offering a program through our health insurance that's called Revive. And it provides all staff an opportunity to have mental health support at no cost. I think that's been it is an important piece that we look toward for our principals as well as our other staff, because especially for our principals, this is a lonely profession, and so often within our buildings there is no one to whom we can turn with questions. We are meant to be the leader. We are supposed to have all the answers, and often when we do have somebody that we need to talk to, it requires going outside of our building. Comfort levels may or may not exist there, And I think some kind of a virtual program that a district may provide is an important starting point for making sure that our principals, even if it's not mental problems, it's just purely assistance in terms of decision making or dealing with some of the stresses in the profession. Our legislative process right now is going through recalibration of our finance model, and they're looking at providing an elementary counselor to every district or for every school within a district, which is a fantastic move. However, even if the funding is there and the impetus from our legislature is there, finding the people to fill a position when those are created is going to be almost impossible. We see it as a very difficult task to hire a school counselor already. And if we think toward the creation of a couple hundred new positions within the state, there just aren't the people there to provide that if it did become a possibility. So we do have programs in other districts that lean on providers from out of state as well. We've utilized Project Aware within the state, and that's funded through a SAMHSA grant from the federal government. And it has been very successful in providing students a quick access, which is an important piece. So often we think about getting help for a student, but if we're looking toward finding a provider through a program like CareSolis or other programs that help match someone with a provider, it's weeks out, and help is often not needed weeks out. We need the help now. So programs like Project Aware and the SAMHSA grants from the federal government are important to make sure that we can continue to provide the supports that we have, and we will need to continue to work to find other avenues as well. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Chase. It's very interesting to see how rural districts handling and finding ways and solutions around some of the challenges that some of us, myself from an urban district, wouldn't even think would exist. But thank you, and that's very enlightening. April, Columbus has forged some community partnerships to ensure readier access to mental health services. Can you share some details about how that works, whether it's replicable in other communities, and how the federal government has or could support your efforts?
Thank you, Mark. Yes. We're very fortunate in Columbus City Schools that we have many agencies that are there for the services that our students need on the social emotional learning side. Our nationwide Children's Hospital provides behavior specialists that work with our students and our families. We have agencies called Directions for Youth. We have Buckeye Ranch. I apologize for the sunshine. And all of those things are agencies that provide clinicians who are working with our students. So at my building, I have 6 clinicians, one that's there full-time and the other 5 are there 2 to 3 days a week. And they are working with our students and they're working with our families. But in order for that to work, our staff has to have an understanding of what the needs are. And that's where Title II training comes into play. 10 years ago, my district went through trauma-informed practice training based on Dr. Bruce Perry's philosophy. And we do our very best to ensure that the students have what they need in order to be ready to learn. Oftentimes the trauma that they come because they are staying in shelters or because their parents are incarcerated or they're living with great grandparents or they're in a hotel because their house had caught on fire. Trauma is absolutely unbelievable. And those are just the tip of the iceberg. But those are the things that impact the students' abilities to learn. And so it's incredibly important that these clinicians are available to come in and to work. Our district has partnerships that they have established with the varying agencies. And that is something that I hope that other districts are able to replicate. And the funding is something that really is needed. It's all about the mental health. And as I had mentioned before, for like support services that my students have, things like that, the speech and language pathologists, OT, PT, they're able to bill Medicaid for those hours, which obviously is not anything that impacts the students or their families as far as their coverage, but it is critical. If they cannot bill Medicaid, they cannot serve the students. One thing else that our district has done that I think has been incredibly important to our success is the district created these socio-emotional learning practitioners, SELPs. And those are trained staff who are there to support our staffs at our building and teaching them how to work with those students and how to provide for them. With any cut to that funding, there's a significant loss that we would experience if we didn't have those SELPs available. So that is something that without the funding, I think we would really be in a very serious situation. But I'm very fortunate to have those clinicians, and that's a rarity even in my district.
Thank you for highlighting the importance of mental health services. You know, we often hear the saying, you can't teach them until you reach them. And there are, you know, I think the practitioners on this webinar are well aware of that. But for those who aren't, sometimes that's overlooked. And sometimes the need to support students, their emotional health long before you even try to teach them is so critical. And again, it can't be emphasized enough. So thank you for that. We're going to switch gears a little bit and start moving into the realm of technology. And this year, when students went back to school, across many states found that cell phones were prohibited from being even inside the school in many cases, and in other cases could not be out. Driven by studies and books that asserted that cell phones in schools caused student distraction in class, caused discipline problems, and inhibited normal social interactions, 31 states and the District of Columbia decided to ban or restrict their use in schools. Some states embraced outright bans, while others required districts to develop their own policies. Many districts purchased relatively expensive storage pouches and required students to store their cell phones in them for some or all of the day. James, as someone who embraces technology and spoke about it at this summer's AFSA convention, can you tell us how your district is handling this issue? Whether you believe the solution is correct and working, and whether there is any need for the federal government to weigh in with policy or perhaps funding.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. So in my district, we have banned, if you will, cell phones all the way up to 8th grade. So elementary and middle school, you're not allowed to have cell phones during the school day. You are allowed to have them on the school bus, after school, before school, but not actually during the school day. On the high school level, you're able to have cell phones in school, just not in the classrooms. You're able to have them in between periods. You're able to have them during lunch. So if you'd asked me this exact same question probably a year ago, I would have a very different answer. At the time, being a whole school tech magnet, we spend a lot of time actually in technology, teaching kids how to actually create their own apps. And I really had a pretty strong opinion about the need for teaching students how to actually use those tools responsibly. This year, having confronted and having to deal with a ban, I just thought it was going to really be challenging for us. And what I found was that we had a reduction in challenges, particularly when it came to discipline and some of the issues we were dealing with cell phones in the hallways. prior to this year, in my specific building, we allow kids to have them in the hallway and between transition and at lunch, but not in the classrooms. My feeling right now is that this was actually the right move, particularly up to 8th grade. We've seen a reduction in just disciplinary issues that was coming out of cell phones. And the reality is our kids actually still have cell phones, right? But they are not showing them every 5 seconds to friends throughout the halls and things of that nature. We still are able to teach kids how to use those apps. We have access to Chromebooks, like probably many schools, or where you can actually kind of simulate a cell phone. So they're able to create those apps and use it that way. In terms of the federal government weighing in our particular district, our state hasn't even weighed in. They, for the most part, have told the districts to make the decision. And our district and many of our surrounding districts have a very similar policy. I think it's the right policy. I do think that the cell phones was a much greater distraction than even just providing guidance on how kids to best use it. I just don't think it was enough. And we saw that over and over again. Now, having banned them all the way up until 8th grade, I've been seeing quite a difference. I also have come to understand that, even in our building that's really focused on technology, there's so many spaces in which we're using technology, everything from, what we do with music classes to, how students are using calculators to, and our robots and tech classes and engineering classes and things of that nature. So to be honest, I don't miss them within the building, and I do think it was the right move.
Thank you very much. It's interesting that you felt it was going to be more of a challenge than it's been, and that you think it's correct. Very interesting. Chase, how about all the way out in rural Wyoming? What are you noticing?
Just going to build off of James's comments a little bit here. Cell phones has been an issue that, as a principal in previous jobs as well as this one, I've been working to find the right solution for many years. In fact, I had a cell phone ban in place 8 years ago, my first year as a principal. And this year, heading into the school year, was excited at the changes that were being discussed. James mentioned that he didn't really think that this was a federal issue, and I would tend to agree there. I think that the way that a community and a district handles a cell phone is probably best done at the district level, where the parents that are going to be dealing with the policy have an opportunity to weigh in, and the school board that is there to represent those students and those parents has the most voice in the matter. Our state last spring had a brief discussion around legislation that would require no cell phones across the state, and our legislators made the decision at that point to not move forward with legislation and leave it to the district level. Districts around myself as well as ours have moved forward with cell phone bans at varying levels. My district specifically felt it very important that whatever the expectations were for students throughout the school day, that those were matched with requirements and expectations for staff. So we have a cell phone free building. That doesn't mean that we're having students put cell phones in pouches, or that we're having staff put those in a drawer or that type of nature. It's just that we expect all notifications be turned off. And so we very much allow students to keep their cell phones, whether it be in their pocket or in their backpack. But if our teachers are noticing that notifications are distracting a student from their task, then they're asked to put their phone in a Faraday pouch, and that prevents it from hitting their watches, hitting their earbuds, or anything of the nature for that day, and moving forward from there. So we've taken that. We still have the trust in the student, trust in the parents through the process. I think that's an important one that we continue to maintain parents and our community as part of our education. However, our expectation, and I think it's been a very impactful one, the same way James said, is that we're just not receiving the notifications throughout the day that are drawing our attention away from our given task. And I think that applying that for students, we've seen, during passing periods and during lunch, students actually having conversations with each other, going to teachers and having conversations with teachers and asking for help because they're not buried in their phone and trying to catch up with the 55 minutes worth of things that have happened since they left it. So it's been successful for us, and I would encourage any others that are looking toward a similar policy to look toward making sure that you're making the same type of decisions for your students and staff. It's important that none of us are being distracted and we're focused on the things that need to be done for a given day.
Thank you very much, Chase. And that sounds quite reasonable that the decision should be made closest to where the decision is actually having an effect. So that sounds quite reasonable. And April, how we doing over out by you?
Well, Ohio is one of the states that restricts the student use of cell phones and other electronic devices during the school day. So students are permitted to have cell phones until they hit the door of the building in the morning and exit the door at the end of the day. A lot of my students are walkers or are bus riders. And so parents have this need to feel that their students are safe. And in order to do so, they want them to have those devices available. And we are very accepting of that. What we have made sure that our families understand is that during the school day, we are here to teach and the kids are here to learn. And past few years, there have been a significant rise in usage during the school day across our district. And a lot of it was centered around social media. And that then became an issue with discipline. So we're working to create a environment where students understand bell to bell, it's time to learn. But there are those times where it's acceptable and it's okay if our staff authorizes it for instruction, and that would be mostly for middle and high school. We do have students that might have documentation that is needed with medical devices, so monitoring their sugar level for diabetics, or if their IEP or 504 plan indicates that a device is something that they need. But additionally, one of the things in Ohio is that they permit the use of cell phones in the event of an active threat or emergency. And that is something that as a district and as a state, we're working to determine how do we best communicate that in a manner that's going to ensure that it doesn't create more of an issue. The social media thing really, with this recent restriction, it's made things just so much easier. The kids are not there to talk about each other or to have all their problems. And even in elementary, they do it all. So I was quite happy that we were in that situation where the usage was restricted, and as a school, it's worked very well for us.
Well, it's certainly encouraging to hear all three of you speak positively about some type of restriction on cell phones, and especially the fact that it is leading to more engagement, and hopefully that will lead to more learning opportunities for our students. So that is quite encouraging. April, I would be interested to find out going forward with this policy that they can be used during emergencies, whether that would actually be helpful for students to be reaching out or harmful. Hopefully there'll be no emergencies in Ohio anytime soon, but should there be, I would be interested to hear how that worked out. Moving along and continuing with technology regarding AI in schools, for the past few years, it's been the hottest and most controversial thing in education, which is the advent of AI. AI is quite literally everywhere and being used by students and staff in a variety of ways. My friend Mark Erlenwine, who's a principal in Staten Island, does a terrific demonstration where he shows himself instructing ChatGPT to prepare a detailed bell schedule for the school day and write an observation report in his voice while he drives to work. Teachers use AI for everything from writing lesson plans to preparing quizzes and tests to parent communications. On the downside, however, there is great concern about students misusing AI. Having AI write their papers or complete their homework is a frequent complaint. Many educators fear that students are learning too much on AI, leaning too much on AI to do their critical thinking for them. Others worry about the potential of AI compromising student data or reducing a student's ability to interact socially. Let's hear how our principals are working through this AI revolution in real time and whether they think the federal government needs to help out with any policy or funding. Chase, your thoughts?
Thanks, Mark. I have found AI to be tremendously helpful in my position, and like your friend Mark, often make ChatGPT my co-pilot on road trips. And Wyoming is a large state. I often find myself driving 4 or 5 hours to a meeting in our capital or to a legislative session, and it's nice that I can make those 4 or 5 hours something besides windshield time. I find the ability to converse with an AI engine and just have it ask me questions, refine my thinking, etc., to be extremely helpful. I've asked my teachers to do the same when it comes to refining lesson plans or bulking out content to drive student interest that we may have had to spend hours of research on to find a way to do the same previously. We can sometimes get that done in 5 to 10 minutes. Everything for, in my position as the state coordinator for Wyoming with federal and state legislation. Last session, we had 130 bills related to education. And if it were up to just my own ability to read those, sift through and determine what all the impact was going to be, it would have taken up all my time. With a simple tool like Google Notebook LM, I can drop those bills in and ask questions of them that might be pertinent to principals across the state and have a refined platform for them to read each morning with changes and what impacts may be coming. So the benefit that it's provided us in terms of taking the menial aspects of our job and allowing those to be done in an efficient manner so that, and I will make the argument here, so that we can spend more time on the critical thinking tasks and we can build ourselves as the experts and making the decisions based off of information gleaned. Sometimes we would have maybe leaned on another person to go out and find information for us and summarize that. And now that can be done more quickly and we can be making quicker and better decisions that benefit our students and our teachers with that. And I would say, as I mentioned earlier with cell phone policy, if we're going to hold ourselves to a standard, we need to hold that for adults as well as for students. I think that we definitely need to be assisting our students in learning how best to utilize AI where it's appropriate. But I think that's as simple for a teacher as our right students' Chromebooks closed now, and we're going to write an essay by hand, we're going to work a test by hand, or students' Chromebooks open, and I fully expect that you're going to use AI. But with that, the standard at which I expect you to perform is also going to increase. The types of questions that I'm going to ask and provide you an opportunity to answer are going to be different than the ones that I may have asked 5 or 10 years ago. And I think that as the advent of technology has pushed us to be better educators and take our students to a whole new level over the course of the last 50, 100, 150 years, AI is here to do the same. And we can be making sure that our graduates are graduating prepared to serve our economy and that they are graduating with a level of knowledge and an ability higher than any graduates we've ever seen before.
Thank you very much. James, I'm going to ask you just to abbreviate your comments, if you can, to 2 to 3 minutes maximum here as we're running up to a time crunch.
Yeah, I'll try to make it probably maybe a little quicker than that. I just felt like Chase said a lot of the things that I would say. I just want to just add the piece around students, and I'll just take it up another notch is that I think teachers are going to have to do things a little differently than they have been. And that's the challenge, at least that I'm working with. And I suspect all of us will be continue to work with. I think it's a little more than just turning off our computers. But when we have those computers on, what task are we actually asking students to do, right? And how do we change those tasks in such a way that AI becomes a benefit, not the thing that actually does the entire task? I'm also a believer that a certain age, particularly before middle school, really shouldn't be used at all. I do know that AI is in everything. I think our district took a very, if you will, kind of a unique position at this, instead of coming out with an AI policy. I know certain schools and districts are doing that. They just looked at the current policy around technology and digital use, and then used and just informed it through AI that way. So they had some, you see that AI kind of through the policies that already exist, instead of trying to create a separate AI policy, which I thought was very smart, just because what we know is that it's everywhere. Our teachers use it all the time. I'll say our students use it all the time, but definitely I also use it to do all kinds of things, from providing feedback to figuring out what kind of circle questions I'm going to use when there's a conflict. At the end of the day, what it does is provides, just like Chase said, provides us more opportunities to do more engagement, instead of spending so much time trying to figure out, okay, what question am I actually going to ask here? Or how do I reword this in such a way that it's not offending the particular person? So I'm a fan of AI, but I do think that it needs to be used wisely, and also think that it's going to be something that's going to change education, not in terms of replacing teachers, but in terms of how we actually teach.
Thank you very much, James. And thank you to all of our panelists for quite an informative discussion. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Ron Nuzoy to close us out. Ron is the Executive Director of the National Association of Secondary School Principals, a well-known and highly regarded and respected educator across this country. Ron, welcome and thank you.
The thanks go right back to you, Mark. Appreciate your leadership and being such an expert moderator and facilitator of this. And let me just start by saying to all of the principals in the room, happy National Principals Month. And thank you very much for this amazing work that you do for children and families in your respective jurisdictions every single day. I cannot imagine our country without amazing professionals in the field like each and every one of you and your brothers and sisters across your great states and locations. And so thank you very much for this heroic work that you all do. Shout outs to our partners at AFSA and NAESP. This is we've been doing this now together around this time of the year for a number of years, and I really appreciate the partnership and support. And then, of course, shout out to Mark for you facilitation, and then the amazing panelists here, Principal April Knight in Ohio, Principal James Ulrich in Maryland, and Principal/Superintendent Chase Christensen over in Wyoming. So thank you all, and congratulations on a really productive time. I really just want to take a minute really to encourage everybody who's either watching live or tuning in virtually through a download to really exercise the power and the importance of your voice. In talking with your local electeds and your federal electeds and your community work, talking with leadership in your respective communities, it's really important that principals talk about the work that you do every single day. We don't lead with that because, as you heard, every panelist is talking about their amazing students and their amazing staffs. And, they're always advocating to make sure that they get what they need. And principals never, lead with, let's take care of principals first. So as I'm sure all of the sister organizations here would agree, it's our job to say, hey, these folks are real. To everybody who's tuning in, these folks are real. They're real human beings who do this very difficult work and smiling all the time and being as positive as they can possibly be. And I don't know where everybody else comes from, but in my book, that counts for something. So please, 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 principals, assistant principals, educators, friends of educators, congressional staff, please exercise your voice. And if you're on the policy side, make sure you involve principals and assistant principals in these conversations, because they can help you turn your amazing idea of policy into something that will really work really well in the field. You just got to involve them. Second, in this very same vein, it's very important to consider evidence and use data to solve these problems, but it's also very important to involve the practitioners who are directly at the point of impact, because all of us want every single child to have the best possible outcomes they can possibly achieve. And all of us want all the folks who help those kids get there to have the supports they need. And so you're not going to get a partisan or, funny approach to this. You're going to get a really heartfelt, you talk to any school leader anywhere in the country, and you're going to get a really thoughtful, straightforward, this is what it's going to take to get our kids from point A to point B and to ultimately to wherever their future may carry them. So please involve the folks that are doing this work every day, because they don't want anything other than for you to ask them how to help and then to follow through on that commitment to help. And again, these are not partisan issues. Traveling all around the country, we have principals from 3 completely different states, 3 completely different jurisdictions, and they all focused on similar things, what it's going to take to serve the kids and to support the people who actively do that every single day. And so to the point of whether we're talking about workforce investment or pipeline development, or whether your school is rural, urban, suburban, et cetera, whether you're in a big city or you're in way out in the country in your own small community, this networking and access to supports and to information is really important in education today. And so to everyone tuning in, please be active. And to those who are on the policy side and decision-making side, please continue to support these efforts. And then finally, each and every one of you has the relationship. You've earned that credibility in your local school communities. And I want to just end this with some citing of the research. All of you may not be familiar with the latest research around the impact of school leaders. And the principal impact is as great, if not greater than the teacher impact, which are the two, by leaps and bounds, the two greatest impactful elements in the entire K-12 continuum, greater than per pupil funding, greater than class size, greater than school makeup, greater than demographics. The principal and the teacher are the two most impactful. So to every policymaker here, if you're not surrounding yourself with a group of principals or a group of teachers to help you inform your policy, you are missing out. And so please contact AFSA, NAESP, or NASSP if we can help you with getting more principals like these amazing principals to your decision-making tables so you can help to make your policies the best they can possibly be. So with that, thank you again, Mark. Thank you, April. Thanks, James and Chase. Thank you very much to our partners at AFSA and NAESP. Again, happy National Principals Month, and thank you for a very engaging and informative presentation today. Aloha.
Thank you all. God bless.